A massive patch 5.0 has just hit us for Space Marine 2. Now, this video is a day late, so if you've already gone into the patch and played through it, then you know more than I do at this point. I actually personally have not played the patch yet. I will put the patch notes in the description below, as well as the pinned comment if you have not yet jumped into this. Maybe you've been consumed with Path of Exile 2 like I have. But let's go through these patch notes, because there is a lot. So in 5.0, the down and dirty here, the too long didn't watch of this entire video, is that melee got a buff across the board, being an increase in its damage values. But the way that blocking, balanced, and parrying, fencing all work is that they have gotten a bit of a retooling. Balanced and blocking weapons have all had a damage increase, 10% for balanced and 20% for blocking. And then the perfect parry knockback of the fencing weapons has been toned down a little bit while it's been increased on balance, trying to kind of strike a middle ground between those two weapon types. In addition to that, blocking has a new mechanic now where if you block 3 consecutive things, you build adrenaline rage, something like that, that will give you a damage buff. So that is a huge increase to the way blocking weapons work in the game. We have seen a brand new operation added into the game with Obelisk and a new creature type. The Tzaangor Enlightened right here. Is Tzaangor Enlightened? Tzaangor Enlightened. The Dark Angels chapter pack launched. They've also outlined what they're going to be doing for patches 6 and patches 7, where they're going to talk about weapon perks as well. Class perks and other balancing across a lot of other stuff. They've also mentioned too that the grenade launcher is bugged 3 different ways, and that they're looking at addressing that bug without just completely fixing them and ending up breaking the grenade launcher, which I think is an awesome way to approach a weapon that is just, it outperforms every single other tactical weapon because it's just that much better. But that's really the down and dirty of everything here. There are a lot of other little fine-tuned things. This is a pretty extensive set of patch notes, so I'm going to go through it right now. Again, you can find that link below if you just want to read through it if you so wish. Now, I will be streaming this tomorrow. Today is the 11th. I will be streaming on the 12th at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, so you can get all of the secret level Twitch drops that landed for Space Marine 2. And if you've not seen that episode of Secret Level, it was amazing. It needs to be longer, but I'll talk about that at the very end of this video. But let's dive in here on patch 5.0 for Space Marine 2. Let's bring us to the top and let's go through this bad boy. So for beginners, we have the new Operation Obelisk, which is of course going to be set on Demirium and is going to be fighting the wily ways of chaos. You know, those pesky kids would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for you, Horus. So the new enemy is the Tzaangor Enlightened, and the director says here the Tzaangor Enlightened is a disc flying, the Tzeentch of disc right there, Tzeentch disc of Tzeentch, melee ranged hybrid unit. They are fearsome opponents, especially when met in greater numbers. However, catching them after parrying or during a long animation makes them an easy target. We strongly advise you to use target lock to face this enemy. Well, you know, okay, so I've been using target lock this whole goddamn time, and I realize that a lot of people don't actually use target lock. Use target lock. You can see the health of anything you're attacking. It's represented by 3 little blips. But moving on, we have the new season pass content with the Dark Angels chapter pack. This, of course, adds tons of new heraldry to the game, as well as new colors, right? So the purple over here and all the heraldry that corresponds to all these successor chapters. We've gone over them quite a bit now. So you can see this now in the game, as well as the new Dark Angels champion skin for the Bulwark, which looks absolutely crispy. I'm excited to be jumping in on this on Thursday to show off all this fun action. And we will again do a heraldry contest, showing off all the new stuff and ways that people want to bring it to life. I do really want to see ways that we can have these champion skins be broken apart. Like, I mean, that helmet is one of my favorite Dark Angels helmets, and it's a crime that I cannot use it as a Bulwark in general, because it's just such a cool helmet. And the Bulwark in general doesn't have access to really any cool helmets that are not hooded. So I'd like to have an uncircumcised helmet that looks really cool. I know what I said. So the Dark Angels themed weapon skins that are also being added to are an auto bolt rifle here. We're getting a new power sword, which looks sick, a new shield to go along with it, and then a great looking plasma pistol, which is very, very exciting. Now, for as far as gameplay and balancing tweaks go, this is where it gets into what they're talking about with the approach to melee. So first, normal melee damage has increased across the board, so there will be more options instead of just parry and gun strike. Second, we are drastically changing how blocking weapons work. In short, by blocking enemy attacks, the player will accumulate up to 3 stacks of melee damage buffs. Attacking while having those stacks of buffs will spend them and will result in massive AoE damage discharge. So finally, when we're playing as a assault and we're using the block Thunderhammer, we're going to have a direct carryover for the play style of that character, wherein I'm going to be blocking, I'm going to block one more time, and then I'm going to get this really cool ability to do some fun damage. And that's not exactly how it works, but my point remains. I'm going to be able to have a lot more AoE tacked onto the character that kind of responds passively, right? Passively in the sense that I'm not actively attacking to create those AoE discharges, which is very, very fun. Well, that's actually not true. You do. We'll talk about it in a second when we get down there. With these changes, fencing weapons will be great versus limited numbers of enemies. Balanced weapons will be good versus big crowds, and blocking weapons will become damage dealer type of weapons. So more on perfect block, which I messed up talking about in a second here. So here's how it works. All block weapons have been reworked with a new mechanic, perfect block and adrenaline surge. I said rage earlier. Perfectly timed blocks grant up to 3 adrenaline surge stacks. Adrenaline surge stacks greatly increases melee damage and are consumed after the next melee attack. Attacking with 3 stacks of adrenaline surge deals massive AoE damage, staggers enemies, and restores 1 armor segment. So if you kind of think of the projected play of this, right? You're getting attacked, you're getting swarmed, a bunch of Chaos Warriors on you. You know, you block 1, 2, 3 blocks, then you get your 3 stacks of Adrenaline Surge, and you do an attack, and boom, it's a big AoE burst, and it gives you a 1 armor segment back, which I think was a real amazing way to make block super viable for someone that wants to focus solely on a damage style of character. I think that is absolutely aces. Now, you guys have probably played it. Let me know in the comment section below. What have your thoughts been? I've looked at some of the comments on my Discord and people are loving it. They think it's really sick. But have you guys said, you know, this actually doesn't seem too awesome. There's a little complications here and there. So again, would love to know what you guys feel. Now, coming into fencing weapons, I have heard that there has been a bit of a, what do I want to call this? Like a phantom nerf here. I'm going to bring this up here. Someone on my Discord said this. This is from the Steam comments of the Steam Weapon Data Guide. Apparently, shout out here to Moruncle. Changes with 5.0. Melee weapons in general have a balanced weapons have 50% increase to their stagger radius on perfect parry and a 10% damage on all tiers except common. Fencing weapons, though, perfect parry window increase removed was 0.465. So I guess it was actually the stealth nerf here is that it was actually kind of made a little bit harder to perfect parry. I'm not sure. I've not tested this. You guys can let me know how you feel. I have no insight on this. I want to be 100% transparent. I'm just showing off what I've seen and what people are talking about in my Discord. Normal parry block starts time was buffed though. So your normal parry is a little bit easier. So perfect parry is slightly harder. Normal parry is slightly easier, but it's a fencing weapon regardless. Block weapons, though, had a 20% damage on all tiers except common and new perfect block mechanic, of course, and then general damage modifiers. I think this is just referring to like the way damage scales across weapons, but 0 to 20 to 40 to 100% damage value increase across all those things. So that's just a little bit of information from the community. I have no idea really how that frames into this, but I wanted to bring that up because I'm sure people are starting to feel that. But balanced weapons here. Perfect parry AoE stagger radius greatly increased like we talked about, and mastercrafted artificer and relic versions get that 10% damage buff that we just talked about. And 2 with blocking weapons, we see that 20% increase across the board across mastercrafted artificer and relic. And then also 2 with unarmed firearm melee, stomps can now be chained indefinitely. It used to just be 2, now you can just keep bum and keep stomping. Unarmed firearm melee is referring to the heavy. So with firearms, though, they're saying that they're pretty happy with the way that firearms are performing right now. They're saying, hey, you know what? All firearms are, for the most part, viable in the hardest difficulties of the game, and that's what we wanted. Our win rate, pick rate data shows drastic improvements, which is good. But still, there are a few weapons that are better than the others, and minor tweaks will be coming with patch 6. I see this to be pretty much all of the carbines, the Oculus bolt carbine. I don't know. I love the Instigator bolt carbine. I think it's a pretty good spot. Just the standard bolt SMG carbine. I think those are the things that are probably going to be seeing a lot of love here come patch 6, whatever this includes. Further into the future, patch 7, we are planning to focus on reworking weapon perks. Weapon perks are underwhelming compared to the class perks right now, and the issue with some weapons are actually a result of them having a bad perk tree rather than their basic stats, which we've said on this channel plenty of times. People have said on Reddit and all the other things plenty of times, and they've responded to people posting about this on their suggestion forum. So big on them for realizing that and outlining it, right? Saying like, hey, it's coming not in this next patch, but the patch after. Don't know why you'd wait that long. I would think you'd want to put one out. Like, hey, here's the one we see is the most egregious of errors weapon perk wise. And that honestly, it's probably the Oculus bolt carbine, and it has just shit weapon perks because they don't really make sense. Hey, here's our experimentation for how we want to approach this. We're waiting for feedback on just this one weapon. I wouldn't want to put a ton of dev time into reworking 15 weapons and you send them out to everyone and it goes, oh man, this just does not work well. So I would think you'd want to at least put one out in patch 6 or something, whatever it is. I'm not a dev. What do I know? I talk in front of a microphone all day. So other than that, though, we have the grenade launcher, and the grenade launcher, it has a problem in that basically it is bugged 3 ways from Tuesday. Is that a term? I'm going to stick with it. So due to a bug, a certain perk restores its full ammo when it shouldn't. We know that perk from the tactical. Due to a misconfiguration on our side, its Artificer and Relic versions deal 4x more damage than the Master Crafted version, which was not intended. And due to a bug, perks that increase Auspex scan damage stacks buff inconsistently. Normally, all damage stacks buffs additively, thus providing consistent and predictable results. Additive, for those that don't know, because additive and multiplicative are very confusing terms, because when you're talking about game mechanics, it can be. So if I have something that's got 150% buff and then a 50% buff, if we add those two together, that's additive. Multiplicative means that it's a 50% increase on the one prior to it. So this is saying that it's additive, it's easy and consistent and predictable to get those results, is what they're saying. This bug, though, results in crazy damage numbers with Auspex scan perks depending on the order they were activated. So you can somehow cause some sort of chaos with your activation of your perks. And this is why bosses get erased by grenade launchers with certain builds. If we approach this directly and fix all 3 bugs, it will make the grenade launcher useless and will hurt the entire tactical class. We'll be very careful with how we address this issue. We do not want to keep, we do want to keep the fun element of destroying entire waves of enemies with the grenade launcher. But at the same time, no other weapon can match a grenade launcher with potentially unlimited ammo. So that, and I totally agree on that sentiment. I like that they've said, hey, we acknowledge that this is a problem right now. We're trying to address how to approach it. And I'm all for that. At least they know, like, approaching it like, we can't just fix the bugs and go, hey, sorry, they're all bugs, deal with it. So I appreciate the transparency there. With the Neo Volkite pistol too, the damage on it was kind of a little underwhelming. So what they've done is they've unified enemy sensitivity to Volkite damage with bolter damage. This means a massive damage buff to certain Majoris and Extremist enemies that were more resistant to Volkite damage than others. So the sensitivity has been increased from 1 to 1.5 for these enemies. All the Tyranid warriors, Devourer, Barbed, all the Tyranid warriors except for the ones with not scything talons, the swords. The swords have a special name. Boner swords, Rubric Marines, and the Flamer Rubric Marines, and then the Zoanthrope. So all the real big targets you'd really want to get that damage on with this thing, you now are going to have increased damage against them. Again, the melee Tyranid warrior, not as much, but still you're going to be in melee with that thing anyway. Bolt carbine, though, max ammo of all SMG type bolt carbines increased by 1 magazine. I don't think the magazine was the problem. It was the amount of rounds in the mag. So I would have rather seen this be increased by 10 or 15% because it's not the amount of mags I'm burning through. It's the amount of ammo that I have within the mag to sufficiently do damage to extremist monsters to make this thing more worthwhile. So I think, I have to play this and see what it feels like, but that doesn't feel like the right step that I would have wanted from the carbine. You guys can let me know if you've tried this out. For some reason, though, I feel like stuff like the bolt carbine specifically, not the Oculus, but the bolt carbine, the heavy bolt rifle, and the auto bolt rifle seem to have. This is a like placebo effect. It's not a real thing, but I swear to God, whenever I use those weapons, I'm just like headshotting like a king, and I don't know why. So I'm not that talented, but we'll see how that really feels. Now, a new big thing that I forgot to mention in the intro of this video is the new Extermination bonus. So basically, they want people to skip less content, right? So if I'm playing Inferno and I'm rushing through the map, what that causes is a result of you just, okay, Played 12 minutes, got to this part, get my experience and go on. Well, now what they've done is if you kill a certain amount of enemies spawned, 60, less than 60, more than 60, then more than 85%, you get 100% for less than 60, 110%, so a 10% bonus, and a 20% bonus for doing more than 85% of the enemies that spawned if you kill them, which I think was like the best way to do this, right? We all said like, oh man, it'd be really fun if they gave me some sort of reward for killing the droves of enemies. Like, oh, I screwed up on the pacing of this. I'm fighting wave after wave. This doesn't mean more experience. It just means more time in a mission away from the experience. So I'm really glad that they did this. And I think too that this is going to play very well into whatever they have planned for the prestige system and how that's going to come to the game. I think right now the biggest problem with experience is once you level, you're on a rotation with your experience. Okay, I've leveled up my character. Great, I'm switching characters. You don't stay on that character and level up their weapons unless their weapons have a carryover to another character you want to level. And you're better off just switching over to that character anyway, that class anyway. Once you've leveled up all your classes, now you're leveling up the individual weapons. So for example, if I'm on tactical and I've done my grenade launcher and I've maxed it out, there's no incentive to stay on the grenade launcher aside from the fact that it's a grenade launcher, right? Like I'm wasting experience that I'm not putting into other weapons. And I think some sort of, and I've said this before in a video, some sort of armory bank of experience would be better for the game so that I could level up whatever weapons I want with the experience I've gathered. Because right now I feel like every time I play on a class, if I'm not playing on a weapon that's not leveled up, I feel like I'm wasting experience. Because all my classes are 25 now, right? So I just, there's got to be some sort of cool workaround for that. Or maybe if weapons are grouped together, like bolt weapons are in a group. So if I'm using the bolt rifle gets 80% of the experience I earned, and then 20% of it is spread across the other bolt rifles, including the bolt rifle I just used. If that makes sense. I don't know. I'm just thinking of some sort of way that you can make it so that experience can apply to more things that you can try out without feeling like you're wasting experience. But maybe that's me because I'm a completionist. Up to gameplay quality of life, a lot of really great things here. Dodge and vulnerability logic is now client side, meaning dodges will be responsive and more accurate with higher ping. Huge improvement there. Players are now invulnerable to new instances of damage while in knockback animation. So if you get knocked back from the zone thrope, you are now immune until you get back up, or at least to the point that you can react with your character again. Huge improvement there. Added 10 frames of invulnerability at the start of jump pack launch animation. I can't tell you how excited I am for this, because one of the worst parts of playing Assault is you go to jump into the air and you press the button and your character is just locked and they get hit and they're knocked out of it and you lost the charge and you're like, why do I play this stupid class? Because it's so fun and I'm a Blood Angel main, but who cares? So I'm glad that that was added in. Huge improvement. Dodge and parry sound notification clarity has been greatly improved. Finally, I will no longer suck. That's not true. I'm still going to keep sucking, but still. Added spawn protection in PvP as well as the Neo Volkite pistol as well. Player controls are slightly more responsive after using the grapnel launcher if you so wish, and heavier barrier can be activated in more player states during stagger animations and such. For the AI, the shielded zone thrope will now attack much less frequently, which I didn't know how you'd kind of deal with the shielded zone thrope, and I think that this is, for now, I think a good thing. I think that the shielded zone thrope shouldn't have 100% damage immunity, because if I throw a crack grenade and it sticks, and then the shield shifts, and the crack grenade blows up on that zone thrope, it will not kill the zone thrope. It should give them a true damage shield. If I get lucky and do that, and the timing's right, it should just blow. It'd be even cooler if they had a cool animation for like an implosion, because it's like, oh, it's contained by the damage shield. But now I'm just running off the rails here. So I would love to see that be added in here, that the shield doesn't negate anything within the shield's damage wise, again, for any kind of crack grenade throw. Customization here, added some lens color customization, finally been brought into the game, so we can now color our lenses for a lot of the chapters that people have been working with. And if you're a Blood Angel character, you now have green lenses on whatever helmet you want to have it on. Well, I guess the one that has the lenses. Fixed the shading of Balthazar gold, so it's now a true kind of reddish gold, and Ushabti bone, which is that kind of off-white that it's supposed to be, that kind of cream color that we have in tabletop. A great improvement there. Fix a small number of bugs with certain number of pieces, not applying colors correctly. Operations fixed here with Fall of Atreus and some perks here. So a big thing, note from our game director, in this patch, we are only fixing bugs with existing perks, but trust me, we are seeing the issues with them. A lot of the class perks are not as good as we wanted them to be, and some perk trees choices are really just more efficient than others. With patch 6, we are planning to massively rework a bunch of lacking perks to make more builds viable. Very excited for that. Now, as far as a lot of these are either campaign specific or achievement related, stuff like that. I've highlighted like 2 of the ones that I noticed were related to perks. If you see more on here and I'm just not smart, just go ahead and let me know. But the big one here is fixed a Bulwark's Armor of Contempt perk, not triggering correctly and dealing friendly damage or friendly fire. And combat knife charge attack buffs from the other perks, example, Sniper Shadow Stab, are now correctly applied on both damage instances. So if you're playing a sniper and you had the one buff for Shadow Stab for the 100% on your first hit, then you had another one for not moving and would grant you what 20% for that, they would not stack. Or they wouldn't actually even apply the buff outright. So now this has been fixed. So this is the patch notes for patch 5.0. You can go ahead and let me know in the comment section below what you feel, how you feeling. Is 5.0 the greatest patch ever known by a human being mans? Or is it one that you are really not liking? Go ahead again and let me know. I will have more insight on this when we play on Thursday. We'll jump through and just have some fun, do this new operation, hang out with the lads, and just do some community ops like we usually do. And you'll have a chance to get those drops again on Thursday. I start at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on my Twitch, linked below. Also, on a side note, if you have not watched the secret level thing, episode on Prime, it's the only thing I watched on that show was the Space Marine episode. And as someone who's been reading Space Marine stuff, reading Warhammer stuff since he was 12 years old, I just turned 37 like 10 days ago. Fuck. It was amazing. It was beautiful. It was awesome. Because when you read the fluff is about like how Space Marines move faster than the eye can follow. And you really get a good representation of that in that show. And also how beastly and how juggernautish these things are compared to just mortal humans. It was, I loved it. It was fun. It was great. A great journey. My only problem with it was that it was way too short for what it was. I wanted it to at least be double the time. I think it did a good job of kind of encompassing what a Space Marine is in a very small time frame, showing that off and really just kind of wetting those lips so you can come on in and try out Space Marine or jump into the hobby, whatever it is. But I think now that Warhammer 40,000 has just become such a pop culture thing now, or starting to become such a pop culture thing, especially with Henry Cavill's full-on approval from Amazon, I think it's probably that cool step and showcase in. And I was talking to my brother about it too. I was like, dude, how upsetting is it that all these cool things that exist on all these different IPs now get these amazing videos and video games and stuff that when we were kids, we were like, oh, I got this crappy Star Wars action figure that's nowhere near as cool as they are now. So enjoy it if you are young enough to enjoy it at that age. Now that I'm older, I just can't buy toys because I feel weird. So guys, that is patch 5.0. Thank you so much for watching here today. If you have any feedback on the patch, go ahead and let it be known below. But don't be scared. Don't forget. There we go. Don't forget to jump over to the stream here tomorrow, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.